Hi there. In the last video, I talked about when to outsource your outbound versus when to build the system in-house. Now, in that video, I also mentioned that if you're going the in-house route, you need to build the systems first before you hire the people. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly what that system is going to look like. Now, before you build the infrastructure, you actually need three things validated. And this is exactly where a lot of founders stumble because they want to skip directly to the execution piece. Foundation 1, a validated ICP. Now, a validated ICP is not something vague like B2B SaaS founders. It is the actual profile of who buys from you. In order to get this, find who your first 10 to 20 customers were and then see what they have in common. So, company size, revenue stage, tech stack that they use, any recent triggers like funding or hiring, find out everything. Now, once you have all of this, you have a base. And if you are actually in the mid ACV range, this is where outsourcing to an agency can actually help you. So you can use the agency for 3 to 6 months to, try out different ICPs, see which profile actually converts and buys from you, and then you can document this. So this is your validated ICP. Foundation 2, validated messaging. You want messaging that actually gets replies. So it makes sense that your first hire should not actually be writing these messages. That is your job as a founder. So what you want to do is probably test 3 to 5 different messages on 50 to 100 accounts, right? And then you track everything. What is getting replies? What is getting converted into a meeting? And then what is actually converting into a deal? Then you have to document what message is working for which role, for which signal, and for which market. Once you have all of this documented, now you have your validated messaging. This is your messaging playbook. The first layer is signal detection. This is what tells you when an account is actually showing intent. Now, what does that look like? You are tracking funding and they just raised a round. You're tracking hiring signals and they just posted like an SDR role or a VP of sales role. You're tracking tech stack and they just adopted HubSpot or they actually moved from a competitor. Now, once a signal fires, the system automatically logs it. No one is going and manually tracking LinkedIn or scouring Crunchbase, and this is basically your signal detection layer. The second layer is scoring and routing. Once a signal fires, then where does the lead go? Because not all signals are the same, right? Some of them will require immediate outreach. For example, if a company just raised funds and they also hired a new CRO, that could be a hot signal for you, and this will become priority 1. However, certain other leads could be lower priority and they will just get scored into a queue, while some others will go into long-term nurture. Now, all of this actually has to happen automatically. So you have to set up rules so that this happens properly. There should be no manual work involved. You really don't want your reps trying to figure out which lead to call next. The system has to figure this out and tell them. Layer 3 is execution. This is where your outreach actually happens, whether it is on LinkedIn or email or a warm call, or maybe all three. But here is the thing, you're not cold anymore. You're timely, you have context, and this is what makes outreach work these days. Now, we do use tools like Instantly or HeyReach to automate the sequences, but every sequence is tied to the signal that actually triggered it. So this becomes the contextualization piece. Layer 4 is the feedback loop. This is how your system gets better over time. You're going to be tracking everything. So you're going to look at which signals are getting you meetings, which messages are getting replies, which ICP is actually converting to deals versus which ones are ghosting you after the first call. So you set up a weekly review cadence and you look at the data and then adjust your scoring on the basis of what you find out. Maybe your funding signals are not as predictive as you thought, but your hiring signals are crushing it, right? Also, look at the messaging. So whichever messages are working, double down on that, kill what is not working. This is actually how your system will compound and get better over time. You go from guessing to knowing. 4 layers built on top of 3 validated foundations. That is how you build your outbound system in-house sustainably. Now, if you missed the last video where I broke down when to outsource versus when to build the system in-house, that video is in the description box below. All right, that's it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you around.